Okay, so while the stream gets going, I'm going to introduce the video here. This is a reaction to a reaction video. This guy here is Raymond, and that's his face there. Saying millennials are facing a hard future and sad death, which is the title of the original video that he's reacting to. And I wanted to do this reaction because it really is a good conversation. Great convo starter, and he's talking about things that the millennials are facing now, and it's nice to be able to go back to our red pill roots and update them for what the reality is on the ground today. And you could go listen to some of the older guys, Gen X, which I'm Gen X, and we'll tell you, based on our life experience, what works. And then the world changes, and now you guys are like, well, now we need new stuff. So, but the good news is this is how Red Pill started. We got together online, we compared notes, we said, this is what I'm experiencing, this is what I'm experiencing, and we came together and we came up with new systems and new ideas, and boom, that's when the Rational Male was born, and all those essays and information and studies came out and kind of put together the pieces. And now you guys have to do it again. And I wanted to get all our generations together. I know the boomers aren't going to help, but Gen X is here, and we got you millennials out there now creating content, and some Zoomers coming up the pipe. So it might be able to do something here. And I just want to explain something about the generations, okay? So the boomers had two sets of kids, two generations. First one was Gen X. And this was like the unwanted generation. This is like when they're like teenage pregnancy, just out of high school, getting started in life, working at fast food, or, they're in college and up, here comes a kid. Oopsie, guess I better get married, have these kids, and then they're just a burden on them the whole time, and they didn't want them, so they just kind of told us to go play in traffic and all that stuff, and we became latchkey kids. And then that later on, after they had their stuff together, they got their college degrees, they got their careers going, they got their houses and their retirement set up and cars and everything, and they're like, now I want kids. And that was you guys, the millennials. So you actually had what were called helicopter parents. And I know there's a mix, there might be some Gen X's that had helicopter parents, and some millennials that were latchkey kids. But those are the general stereotypes across the generations. So first, I want to give you a taste of what he's talking about here, and just go through this for a couple seconds, and so you can get the idea of what the problem is and what's being addressed here. And then I'll give my feedback. And this is not advice, this is just some of the stuff I learned. Here we go.
This morning I was
Thank you, YouTube.
Maybe that's the deal. Maybe that's the survival mode deal that we get now.
It's from 0 to...
This morning I was purveying the tubes of you and came across a video that not only piqued my interest, but it got me thinking. And this is a conversation that I don't think millennials especially are willing to have. We're kind of putting this off in a way that will be to our detriment in the long run. Came across a smaller channel, Cogent Critique. Millennials will face the saddest, hardest deaths, which is very true. Let's hear what he has to say.
I want to talk about why millennials and Gen Z are going to die some of the toughest, worst deaths, even when compared to previous ancestors or parents, boomers, Gen Z. Boomers are coming towards the end of their rope. Many of them are going to be dying soon if they haven't already. Many have. But a lot of them...
So this is the guy Cogent Critic or something, and I've got his link and Raymond's link down below in the description, so you can go watch their full videos. But he's just taking pieces of this and going through it and saying, here's what he's saying and here's what I think, and then I'm going to give what I think. But I want to show you something here real quick. This is something that I see right away. Okay, look at this. So first of all, for you millennials, Gen X, we were the first to get hit by endocrine disrupting chemicals, and it basically shuts down your ability to make testosterone. And so, you know, guys like me, Rolo, Mike Sartain, all on testosterone replacement therapy in our 40s, right? And now you guys are looking at it in your 30s, maybe. Zoomers might be looking at it in their 20s. It's a real thing. And I can look at this guy and see, I don't think he's got, you know, adequate testosterone. And I don't know about Raymond, but he mentions in here that he's going to the gym and he's the skinny guy in the gym. And I just want to let you know, like, if you're not going to the gym and getting like more meat than this 50-year-old smoker that, you know, drinks every day and has, you know, just a couple workouts a week, if you're not getting more meat than that, you guys might want to start thinking about this stuff here. Yikes, the camera does not like that. Well, I was hoping this video would go better. That's testosterone, basically. Yeah, I mean, get tested. They say now you should start at 35. Every man should get tested at 35. And if, like me, they came back and I was like 2 points above normal, and that puts me, because the lab ranges are weird, that it puts you at, put me at a level of a 90-year-old diabetic man, if you could believe that, at 43 or something. And the doctor's like, yep, your testosterone's normal. Because I went in because I was having all kinds of things like erectile dysfunction, recovery problems, sleep problems, memory problems, like all the symptoms of low testosterone. He's like, let's check your testosterone. The lab tells him it's normal. I'm like, that's normal if you're a 90-year-old diabetic man. Sends me to an endocrinologist. I got all that worked out. Got my testosterone back. And boom, the memory was back. The skin, you know, my skin color returned to normal. All these things, the meat started packing on the shoulders and everywhere, you know. It's like, oh, okay, now I'm a, you know, typical male. And my levels were about a third of what a boomer's at, because they never got the endocrine disrupting chemicals. They got to live their lives and have normal testosterone. So yeah, I was like a third of the level of a 60-year-old boomer, if you can imagine that. So I can't imagine what's happened to you guys, but that's one thing I'll mention. All right, let's get through this real quick.
Have a wife and kids, and they built a decent life. They felt like they accomplished something. I think a lot of millennials and Gen Z aren't going to have that luxury.
No, it's become very obvious to me that it has stratified to a point where you, unless you're the top 20% of literally everything, you're not getting a family. Like Rollo is right when he says marriage is now an elite institution. I didn't want to accept that when I first heard it, but it's true. Relationships in general are for, and relationships that would end in a family are pretty much unheard of. You're going to be alone, and you're going to need to start planning how you direct your dollars, the few dollars you can get for your time and effort, accordingly.
Okay, I wanted to stop there because something that worked for me is, let's see, let's go to me. The first thing you do, and if you want to direct your time and money into something that's gonna, actually change that dynamic. But first you go get one of these. Why does it do that? There you go, passport. Maybe if it's in my face. There we go. Get yourself one of these. Okay. Next, you go get one of these. Let me pull it up here. It's all ready to go for you guys. Okay, next you go get one of these. You can see that. This is airplane ticket. So you got 165 for your passport. Here's your airplane ticket to Bangkok. You can get them for 343 is the cheapest. 384 if you pick this one. You're looking at 18, 19 hours with one stop. That's one way. So double the price for round trip. But why come back? What's waiting here? But I mean, that's just Bangkok. I mean, what I did was I went to Bali, it's a DPS. So it's 442 to go to Bali, right? Okay, once you get that, you're going to have to figure out that you can get a girlfriend in 10 seconds. Let me show you this. Okay, this guy gets a girlfriend in 10 seconds. So,
Can I give you a ticket?
What?
Can I give you a ticket?
Yes!
Because you want a ticket to anywhere.
Can I ask you a question? Can I go with you? Ah! Yeah! Oh my gosh!
Can I give you a ticket?
so that's how hard it is to get a girl over there. I think it's Philippines. And all he did was walk up to, some mango farm and talk to the people. And he's like, "What are you doing? What? Oh, this is how you process mangoes? Oh, how many do you process a day? Blah, blah, blah." And he just asked the girl a question and she wants to go with him. And, she's probably like a 4 in her country. But since she's not all fat over here, she's like a adjustable 6, And that's why these girls are freaking out over here about passport bros. Because, like, you can walk into these countries and pull a chick who's a 10 here, but over there she's a 6. And then over here you're a 4 or 5 or something, but over there you're a 10 or 9 or 8. And so it's a funny arbitrage, they call it, marketplace arbitrage. So, like, I'm just saying, that's what I did. And then you get one of these. You're gonna have to spend some time. You're gonna have to learn some language. It's not easy. It costs money. You got the 165 for your passport. You got the 422 for your plane ticket. You're gonna pay for hotels. They're like 10, 15, 20 bucks a night if you're in the backpacker place. And you got your meal. You usually get breakfast included in Bali, but here you go. Then you get one of these. Where'd she go? You get one of these. That's me right there. That's my big fat Indonesian wedding. And my Flash Gordon wife. And that wedding cost me, I put up 500 bucks. And her family did the rest. And, couple hundred people came and donated money, and I walked away with $1,000, and her parents gave me their daughter and a scooter. So it's a pretty good deal, Okay, so yeah, you don't have to be alone forever. There is an option out there. I don't know how viable it is today, but there's like 3 billion marriageable women out there that you just got to leave the country to find them and spend a little money. I think I left with, a backpack and $5,000. I quit my shitty corporate job. I got out of my lease. I sold all my junk. I got on an airplane, went to the other side of the earth, and You know, back then you could do language school, like teaching English school, like to be a teacher. And then, you know, before I had finished, I had a job offer. And then I went and worked, and everybody I knew over there that went and did that got, you know, a beautiful wife that was, you know, fit, feminine, friendly, submissive, kind, loving, you know, nurturing, all that stuff. And a lot of them didn't come back. And I did come back to the U.S. and I taught her about feminism and gave her all the warnings. And she got here and she's like, "Oh yeah, that's one of those feminists." And so they weren't able to like turn her into an evil bitch, you know. Sorry for the French there. But let's go back to Raymond's video and what this guy is saying, because there's more. There's more. There's a whole nother section.
Not only did Gen Z and millennials kind of get the short end of the stick with job opportunities, business opportunities, etc. in life, but they're not even going to get to die in peace either. Many millennials are going to die poor, lonely, without a wife, without kids. And even the supposed lucky ones that do have a wife and kids, many of them will die divorced, separated, probably with kids that hate them.
Yeah, that's something that we don't. I mean, the people talk about it, but the idea that there's this 1900s 20th century ideal that there's going to be this happy family and this legacy in the church on Sunday, it doesn't exist. And it's taken a year of browbeating for me to finally be demoralized enough to admit it, that it doesn't exist. It's just shit. It's just hell. And we can't, no matter how there's, you can't make other people like you. And in mass, especially the millennials, but men and women don't like each other. And that's the number one thing to forming families.
I get what you're saying, and you're right. And he's right. The other guy's right. That you guys are getting the short end of the stick. If you're a millennial, you graduated college right at the beginning of the great financial crash, the GFC, and there was no jobs and you couldn't get hired. And that's brutal. And then you got 20 years, well, 17 years of, maybe not 17, 12 years of, 0% interest rates, basically. Asset bubble inflation. That's what you got. And that just drove prices through the roof. So first people came in and gobbled up all the cheap houses. And there's a lot more going on there, but the banks got bailed out. People lost their homes. College grads couldn't get jobs. And it was a rough time, I agree. And if you were lucky enough to get one of those cheap homes and blah, 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 yay, good for you. If not, you had to buy into the bubble. You had no choice, or just be a renter forever. And then let's talk about, men and women don't like each other, and they do, just not in this country. You start going to other countries and they're actually nice. The women are nice and pleasant, and they actually want husbands and good fathers. And thanks to guys like me and others, we've paved the way for you as an American guy going over there. They're going to automatically think, oh, he's going to be a good husband and father because I heard, so-and-so and so-and-so. And they've seen it with their own eyes, and they've watched all the movies and everything. And that's a good thing. That's to your advantage. And by the way, over there, they don't have the dual mating strategy. They have the beta qualities first, like a protector, a provider, and parental investment is their key metric for most of these women that are not prostitutes or gold diggers. Anyway, that's out there. You guys, I just have to claim it, you know, and bumping your SMV up several points just by getting off an airplane in another country is it's going to serve you well. A guy who's like a 5 in the US can go get a 5 in Asia, but she's going to look like a 8 or 9 over here just because she's not fat and she's pretty and she's pleasant. All right, let's keep going here.
Men and women don't like each other, and there's not settling happening. And there's just a lot of alone people who are just, we're in survival mode, basically. There's nothing, you can't do anything else but just pay your bills. Work as hard as you freaking can, and it's mediocre results. There's no... I'm living proof of this. I have poured my freaking, like, every effort and iota of effort I have into this channel, and it's arguably just mediocre results. Mediocre money compared to office job. And even the office jobs, I can't get a recruiter to come up over $80,000 a year. And I was making 136 a couple years ago. Like, it's... between the AI and the interest rates being high and the endless layoffs, they're not hiring developers. They're just not. And if you do, it's like web production specialist or some other downgraded position that I don't even think I'm qualified for anymore. It's been so long. I have no idea. And you're not getting $100,000 a year. The only people getting $100,000 a year are the people that are hustle maxing a million different things. This is the point. The salient point and pertinent point that he's trying to make is we do not, I think collectively maybe we do, but we're really not realizing the downstream implications of abdicating the societal familial unit and community unit. Because you can't support yourself on a global stage. Globalism has...
So let's address a couple things that he brought up there. It is getting harder, and you're in a race to the bottom. And, you know, I'm glad that you're recognizing that and that younger men are recognizing that. And I've been in it since the 90s. They started with this H-1B program. They ushered in workers from, well, before that, they were just outsourcing all call center work. I started doing that in high school and shortly after high school, and then poof, jobs were gone. You had to go into networking or system administration or back-end stuff. And then they brought in the H-1B guys, and me and all my friends lost our jobs. They marched in the darkies and marched out the whiteys, and we never got hired again, and, you know, went into different careers. But yeah, and then you've got the, oh, well, I'll do tech support on my own, do my own company, blah, blah, blah. They put you out of business so fast, your head is spinning, you know. Like, if you wanted to do a tech support company for, like, small businesses, Geek Squad would put you out of business. Dell Tech Support would put you out of business. Anybody could put you out of business so fast, your head would spin, and they'd be bringing out $15 an hour, minimum wage workers. I got to a point where I was building computers for people, and I was like, I'm only getting $8 an hour at the end of the day. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm just going to go work at McDonald's and make twice as much, you know? So, yeah, you know, those jobs are under attack. They hate you. They want you out. Especially if you're a white male. And they got them. They got those jobs. And the corporations got the wages down. Was it like 40 grand now for a college educated computer science major? Yeah, that's what my wife gets paid to go wipe boomers' asses with zero education. But a background check, you know, whatever. Your channel isn't taking off. I'm just going to tell you that's part of the race to the bottom. There's more and more content creators every day. they're all going to be doing the same talking points. So the number of views are going to go down precipitously and just continue, because as more and more content creators come online and follow the formula, and then they see your video, and then they all make videos like your video. Now the views are split up 5 ways, 10 ways, 100 ways. And Tim Pool was even saying this, and he's probably one of the largest, top 10 shows on the internet, and he's like, oh yeah, my viewers are half what they used to be. It's just because anybody can get on there and do a news channel, like Tim does a news channel, and if you can entertain the people enough, they'll stay and they'll watch yours instead of his. And you can't get hired as a coder. Yeah, that's all been taken, especially AI now. There's no hope at all. Just don't bother that. And then here comes globalism.
It's made everyone poor and everyone a subject of the state. It's global serfdom, and there's nowhere you can run. There's nowhere you can go. And it's not getting better at all.
Before it gets back to that, you're right, there is nowhere you can run. But what if we played the same? Like, I wanted you guys to know that you're playing this game by the rules when everyone else is cheating. And that's why we're all getting screwed over so bad. Everyone else has tribalism. All the Indians, they play tribalism. They only hire Indians. They all work together to get everyone else out. All the Mexicans play tribalism, and we're the only ones not doing it. And I don't know why, but we probably, us white men need to, especially, and I know we've been fighting the woke cancel culture shit for several years now, and it's been just people trying to survive. But I think we've kind of defeated that. We got Trump in, and he's canceling cancel culture and breaking up DEI, and I'm actually in a lawsuit against Infosys for discrimination based on race and nationality, because they are in a country that is 1% Indian and their staff is 90% Indian. So, I mean, we got them by the balls. But anyway, they're going to be paying a lot of money, and you'll probably be a part of that class action lawsuit and be given some money. But, I mean, we really need to stick together and find ways that we can tribalize and keep money to ourselves. This is what the rich do. Do you think the rich are, getting eaten apart by bills and attacked from every side? No, they're all working together. They're all buying from each other. They're all supporting each other's businesses, and that's what we got to do. I mean, it's got to be like communism for us, rugged individualism for everyone else. And until, guys start to accept that, I think that's the new moniker of the manosphere, or the red pill, or the PUA, whatever you want to call it, is that bros before hoes, bros before corpos. And we gotta really stick together tight and say, no, this money is staying in our little mini economy, micro economy. Here we go. What's next?
Etc. Now, I know I'm not speaking for everyone here, but that is a horrible feeling, dying and feeling like you've accomplished nothing. Or accomplished very little. You didn't do anything in your life except work, buy a few stupid toys, and spend hours of your life sitting in traffic.
That is one thing. I have figured out how to not have to sit in traffic unless I actually force myself to go into town. That is one thing I can say about my existence. As miserable as it is and as noise-ridden as it is where I live, I can at least for now, procure money from my person, like my work desk, basically.
And that's actually years of your life. A lot of us spend years of our life in traffic, if you add the numbers up. Just waiting. And that's if we're lucky enough to keep our faculties. Because if you end up with dementia, your mental faculties can go quick. Of course, maybe that's a blessing in a way. I mean, in one sense, dementia is a horrible disease. I've had to see it myself.
You gotta stop it there. But he's right. You can see it already taking a toll on this guy. And you can see Raymond a little bit later gets, you know, I don't know if he's doing it for the entertainment value or if he really feels that way, but I get the feeling that he really feels that way. And like stress, consistent stress causes problems, whether it's anxiety, depression, sleep problems. I think everyone in those generations is going to have to face this at some point. Like when you're in your 20s, you have enough stamina that it doesn't really hit you. Then in your 30s, you start to reflect on it. Then in your 40s, you're going to be like this guy. Like, what did I do with my whole life? Nothing. And this is where Rollo and we really are on this, because we're tired of seeing guys eat bullets, and take the easy way out and never get to know a better life. So there is an imperative there. I do believe that. And mental health for guys is something that we can do something about. We can go hang out. We can go throw frisbee golf. It's free. We can go, like Aaron Clary, go hiking. It's free. And just get out and do something and get our mental health and our sanity throughout the 40s, our 50s, or 60s. And whether you go, to the other side of the planet and, claim a woman, or you stay here and, live with the conditions, there's some importance to that, to be able to go out and do something and have a life, something that makes you happy, whether it's going to church or some kind of chess match or D&D game or something. Find it, grab it. It's worked for me. Even, with my wife and kids, I still have that, okay, the kids are grown, they're at school all day, my wife is at work all day. What the heck am I going to do with my life? So here I am shouting at the internet. All right, here we go.
But then maybe you die not knowing any better. To decide whether that's a blessing or a curse, ultimately. And as even millennials now are getting older, for example, I'm approaching 40. Millennials are going to have to think about death more and more. And a lot of millennials, to add to it, are not going to get to do the things they wanted to do in life because
you could start getting into your 40s, you get that little prostate check. It's coming.
I don't have to tell you, the records are showing prostate cancer, colon cancer, and other cancers are at an all-time high. So a lot of millennials, I think, are going to die prematurely. They're not even going to die in old age.
Actually, they give you it's called a PSA blood test now. They do it every year. And they go in, I think if you have a history of cancer in your family, 45, they'll stick a camera up your butt and cut out the polyps that turn into cancer. Then you come back every 5 years and they check again. Then that's colon cancer. The PSA will tell you if you have prostate cancer, and then there's a new test coming out which they can test for like 10 different cancers in one blood test. So I don't think you guys are going to be dying of cancer unless you don't go to your doctor and do your annual checkups.
the food is so unhealthy and corporatized that it's going to lead to premature death.
Yeah, and you literally can't afford the good stuff. You can't. I'm $45 for a 10-pound tube of ground beef that's $73.27. $45. The cheapest chicken I can find is the shitty gray chicken breasts that are $2.79 a pound. They're just, it's not possible. This is food. You have to have food, otherwise you pass out and die. Like there's no cheap food anymore. And the cheap food it's causing issues.
I will say this, Raymond, though. It is now cheaper to get Wagyu beef from Japan than it is to get USDA beef locally. So you have an extremely good point there. I think this is another one where you guys are just getting totally screwed. You know, first the housing crash, the economic crisis, then the inflation, and then the food, then the rent. It's just everything. Like, you guys are facing the perfect storm. And I'll get to this later, but when this perfect storm all comes together, we'll go into a Great Depression. We're in a recession now that they've been kind of like faking the numbers to keep people from knowing, but we are in a recession. If you're under 55,000 a year, you're feeling a recession. And basically everyone's gone from who's in middle class is now lower class, and everyone who's lower class is in poverty. And that's just the new inflation adjusted reality for everyone. And part of that is food pricing, part of that is rent, part of that is education prices. Let's keep going. This is getting good. This is a good discussion.
In the buy-in for the entanglements of all the things that are required for like half a cow, I got to buy a freezer. I got to figure out where to put the freezer. I got to find, here's the other thing about being alone. I got to find somebody. I can't just lean on my dad to help me every time I need to move something or an appliance or something. I got to find somebody who can help me go get a freezer and then go get the half cow of beef. Like, you can't just go buy a half cow of beef. You got to transport it. Like, okay, I have a truck, but that truck was $35,000 for the cheapest truck I could find with the lowest mileage on it. But most people can't do that. You're fucking trapped with a Toyota Corolla if you're lucky enough to be able to have a beater that is that reliable. The entanglements that are required for the garden, for the chickens, for these people just listed off like it's nothing. And it's like, dude, most people live in a shitbox apartment on the bad part of town because that's the best deal they could find. Driving a shitbox car that's on its 17th last leg. They're praying and hoping that the serpentine belt or whatever doesn't burst in the traffic.
You just described my 20s. Starving college student. Here's something funny though. When I did finally, this was in 2005, I did finally just quit my shitty job, give up my stupid shitbox apartment on the shitty side of town. One of the things that I really liked was giving up my car. It was a Toyota truck, the two banger or the four banger with two-wheel drive. And somehow the emissions system went out and it was just too much to fix. So I called there's a donate your car for a tax refund. So I just did that. They just took my car and I just went to the airport and left. It's like one of those cowboy movies where you ride off into the sunset and you just leave the whole fucking corporate hellscape shit storm behind you, and then you arrive in Bali and it's just nothing but beaches and babes and fun and cheap food and cheap hotels. And anyway, I shouldn't go off on that too much, but yeah, it's true. It's true. You can do that. And there's the freezers, like what you have to go through in this country just to make it, it's like, well, you have to shop at Goodwill and you can't go to the regular Goodwill because they raise prices there. So you have to go to the Goodwill outlet store where you buy by the pound, and then you have to filter through, piles and piles of clothing for 4-6 hours just to get something, and then you got to fight with the other people there to get there first, and that's where here's a good trick for goodwill is like elbows. Use some elbows and you can get your way in. Not that I would know. Yeah, and you got to do that for your clothing, and then you got to get the car from the salvage. You got to get the salvage title car and then fix it up yourself. And then you can get, somewhere under $8,000, your, low mile car or whatever. And then you've got the fix everything yourself. And, this is like, I'm sorry to sound like Aaron Clary here. Be your own plumber, be your own electrician, have your own chickens, have your own cows. It's like, well, damn, at what point does it, and it never does. It never gets there. You never get ahead. It's just always like you're just barely keeping up, and then they raise prices again. It's like, it reminds me of like, because starting in the 90s, I was like, I want to get a place to live where I don't have to pay rent. And that's the boomer answer, right? Oh, just buy a house for $10,000, buy a condo for $10,000 on a credit card in Hawaii. And then you rent it out, and it's like, oh, well, that was easy for you. That's from Rich Dad Poor Dad guy, whatever his name is. Like, dude, that don't work no more. It just keeps getting harder and harder. And buying a freezer, getting a cow now, and transporting it, and all this stuff gets to the point where it's ridiculous. It really is. It's just ridiculous to put this on people who just want to, they want to go work and have some money and have some fun. But corporate America, the rich, they don't care. They want it all. They want everything for them. And you know what they're going to do next, Raymond? They're going to raise your taxes. That's going to be the final crushing blow. Because they raised the fast food, they raised the regular food, they raised your gas prices, they raised your rent, your everything. They raised everything. Now they got to raise your taxes. Dude, they're going to raise your taxes and squeeze. They're going to put you into a point where you can't buy steak, you can't buy chicken, you just get rice and beans. Wonderful future. I don't know if you guys are ready to start working together. Maybe it's a good time to start.
Like most guys that are in this guy's position literally are beyond paycheck to paycheck. It's like one catastrophe away from it. That's that existential dread about one catastrophe away from oblivion. But it's constant, so you constantly have that aching in your temples. I can tell you right now, I'm barely hanging on to the properties I've been able to amass, and no one cares about that at all, by the way. And I can't sell the one that's in town. I cannot afford sustainably to keep this 8% mortgage going, even if the payment is $751 a month. I'm just literally paying $500 a month in rent. Maybe that's the deal. Maybe that's the survival mode deal that we get now is $500 a month for rent for a noisy little exurb, suburb, hamlet, whatever you want to call this neighborhood. Noisy, dog-ridden. God, I woke up this morning again every morning. I don't even need to set an alarm clock. I just am awake because of Howlin' McHowler over there. She just howling away. It's like, shut up, you fucking dog. Like, why are they barking all the time? All the time. And like, I don't get mad at insect noises. I had a woman tell me, oh, I hate the sound of crickets. Ah! It's like, fuck. But no issue with the sound of cars going by. No issue with the sound of traffic. No issue with the barking dog. Oh, I hate the sound of crickets.
You're in a poverty trap. We all are. It's a race to the bottom. There's a term for this called the precariat, right? That's our class. We're in a constantly precarious situation. We never know if we're going to get canceled on YouTube or debanked or have some strike against us or some kind of, where they dip your ratings and don't show you so you don't get views, so you don't get income, or some advertiser complains, and then your money's gone, and then you're broke, and then you're fucked. And then you go apply for jobs, and there's no jobs. Nobody wants to hire white guys. They're still racist and sexist. Can't sell your house. You're a bag holder. You are literally a bag holder. And when you're a bag holder, you can do a couple things. You could sell, hopefully not at a loss, but just get out of it. Do you remember GameStop? Yeah. I got out of GameStop without losing money, but I had to throw 20 grand at the problem. It's called dollar cost averaging. And you just, goes up a little bit, you sell some, goes down a little bit, you buy some, goes up a little bit, you sell some, goes down a little bit, and you just kind of ride that wave down. But you're having to keep add money to have your losses. You keep having your losses and halving your losses, and then you finally get to a point where you break even and you're like, I'm out. That's kind of what the Ponzi scheme of housing is going to end up being. And I don't know the dollar cost averaging analogy for housing and real estate, but you know what you paid for it. You know what someone will pay for it. You can just do the monthly payment calculator, and then look at the rent that you can get for it, and just do the math and say, okay, this won't rent for more than the mortgage, so get rid of it. Or get creative, turn it into a brothel, have some fun in life. Make meth in there, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, you've got a house that is a liability, and if it's not making you money, it's like, how much do you want to lose before you cut your losses, right? Call it a stop loss in the stock market. And the dogs, right? There's a thing called a bark collar, and you put this on your dog's neck, and every time they bark, it shocks them. You might just buy them and take them over to your neighbor that's got the barking dog and say, hi, I know you've got problems with your dogs barking, so I bought you this bark collar. You just put it on when they go outside, and if they bark, it shocks them. Doesn't hurt, it just kind of makes them think twice. And then after a few days or so, they're trained, and and you can take it off when they come in the house. They don't need it on in the house. Just when they go outside, then you don't have this problem with the dogs barking, and the neighbors love you. And so she might say yes, or she might say, oh, that's horrible, that's inhumane. Or you could say, all right, and you just keep calling the police every time the dogs bark, and get your little camera out, because the police have to see it. Make sure you have a camera, and like a nice directional mic that can pick up the sound that far away, and get it all recorded. And you probably got to get a decibel meter. I don't think you really need to do that, but you can just keep complaining. There's noise, there's dogs barking, and just keep calling the city, the whatever they are, the nags, the ones that nag you and give you tickets. And if they get enough calls, they're going to eventually say, ma'am, you got to do something to address this problem. And then as a last resort, which I don't recommend, but it can be done, you can marinate steak in antifreeze and throw it over the fence. But I'm not suggesting that. I believe that might be illegal.
Fucking smoker's voice and everything. Just like, come on. Constant noise. The traffic is constant. You can't. It's hell. It's hell. It's hell. It's hell. Modern life is hell. And I've hit that point of saturation where it's like, no, there's no getting out of this. It's like, this is the bed I made. This is what I'm lying in. Until that house sells, if it ever does, and I can get out of this situation and go find some place that's quieter, maybe I rent there. I don't know. But like millennials that are single going into our 40s, like we're facing the very real truth that like where you live now is probably where you're going to end up dying. Like the economy has gotten to the point, unless there is a major correction and a major crash, you're going to rot where you are. Your options for employment are what you can find around yourself or what you can garner on the internet. And take me, for example, like this YouTube thing is very hit or miss. Like it's down. Like it's down. And I don't know. It's just down. And there's no pleasing the algorithm gods. There's no pleasing the mob. I can't even think about the health conditions that are coming down the way. I mean, I have liver disease. I haven't been to a doctor for that in years. I drank myself to death, basically. It's the requirements of daily living in this just slog fest of existence are so high that you can't even think. Like, it doesn't matter if, okay, sure, the organic, non-butt fucked, free trade chicken, that's $27. No, obviously I can't afford that. I gotta go with the slop. I have to, because I gotta make all these other bills happen too. Like, the inflation is the societal end game. That's the final nail in the coffin. They got us 113 years ago, or whenever 1913 was. They got us. And it's been a race to the bottom ever since. Like, I don't think you hate the Federal Reserve enough. Like, it's not getting better. It's not going to get better. It is only going to get worse. The housing prices are only going to go up. And end of life, like, going into your 40s, 50s, and 60s. And he's right. We're not, like, we're going to start, the average age of first death it's going down now.
Throw something in here, because I think we need some kind of humor break. Now, I want you to remember that there was, the boomers raised the millennials. So you have millennials that are very much like boomers. Okay? So I found this song for you that it reminds me of what the boomers told me when I was in your situation and frustrated and not knowing what to do and getting upset about it. So here's the boomer response. And I think you'll find it funny, because you can get away with this kind of a response as a millennial if you're a cute little blonde girl and you're not too fat and you can sing and dance. But here we go. You ready?
We're so damned emotional, been crying for a while. But the world can't run on rainbows and unicorn smiles. There's a solution if you'd shut up and listen. Put the effort in a job that you're putting into bitching. Suck it up, buttercup. Do this and you'll be fine. Go up here and wipe the tears from your vagina. That's right, and fuck your feelings. No one gives a fuck about your issues, your problems, your shitty fucking luck. This generation's fucked, we're a bunch of fucking weaklings. So wipe your tears and fuck your fucking feelings. That's
Alright, that's enough. I thought that would be funny. And I thought that's what they'll tell you. That's the response you're going to get from boomers. What's that guy, PBD? Patrick Bent. That's going to be his response. It's like flipping out, like, or what's his name, Robert Kiyosaki. Would just buy a condo in Hawaii for $10,000 on a credit card. It's funny. I mean, the boomers are the funniest generation because they just don't care. You're talking about basically what you're saying, like about drinking and stuff like that, and these neighbors and this noisy street and all that stuff. There's a saying that I learned when I was in foreign countries that they say, if you hate the people around you, it's time to leave. And that was very important for me to understand, because once I got to a point in a certain country where it was like, I'm really hating it here. I don't like these people. It's time to leave. And that's what I felt in the US, actually. It was like, I hate these people. I don't like this neighborhood. I don't like this neighbor. I don't like this, cashier. I don't like anybody. Nobody smiles. Nobody's happy. Nobody's doing anything for me. You go where people treat you best. And if you really hate it, leave. That's what I did. There's something else. You'll like this. It was about if you're being run out of town. This is a fun one because like sometimes this happens in foreign countries when there's a miscommunication. But if you're being run out of town, you should get in front of the crowd and make it look like you're leading a parade. Okay, just a little bit of advice there. And I wanted to show you something. You said you got these noisy cars.
Like, life is just going to get harder.
Hold on. You got these cars speeding in front of your house. Look at this. Speed bumps, 2-pack, $78.98. Free delivery. And they come with the metal driver things. So you just I think you just pound in a thing and then screw it on or something like that. And you can just go out and put these in the street. I see people do this where I live. There's people that do this because, like on my street, there's like 13 kids and they're riding their little bikes and playing in the streets and it's like, hey, slow down. It's like the speed limit's 20. They don't want to slow down. You throw out those speed bumps. I called the city. They're like, no, we can't do it because we have to get the traffic engineers from Pepper. I was just like, fine, so and you can just go out and hammer them in with sledgehammer or something and walk away. And then everybody's like, what's that? I was like, oh, it's a speed bump, And now you don't have the speeders. I know the diesels are still noisy, but at least they'll calm down. Less tire noise. I don't know. Let's get back to this video, or maybe I should just cut it there. I don't know. I mean, you're right. There is a death spiral of inflation. You can live shorter lives, especially if you're not getting your liver checked and you guys aren't getting your testosterone checked and by the way, that I think that's the biggest killer in old age for men is low testosterone. It's like you get weak bones, your muscles don't recover, you start falling, breaking your hips, all that stuff. Your memory goes. Like most people don't realize that testosterone is used to make estrogen, and estrogen makes your brain have good memory, which is why your woman will remember every little thing. But anyway, nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's coming to save me. This is part of the red pill mantra. So save yourself. There's nowhere to go. You're right. I don't even know where I can go anymore, but I'm thinking, I'm out here, doing what I can to support the people that I think are part of some kind of community that I think I want to see succeed. There's you, there's Jack Napier, there's Nuclear Cadillo, there's, Aaron Clary, there's a few others, and Ryan Stone, and I'm just kind of like being that extra viewer and giving that extra like and being the subscriber. And I think that one day we just do this all for each other, just like the Indians do for each other. They all get together and like, click on my video, get a like. I want to get the algorithm and get the money, so that the Raymond doesn't get the money, I get the money. We're gonna have to do that at some point. We're gonna have to be tribal and take care of ourselves. I think that's one way. And you're right, jobs are not coming back. And I know there's one more thing this other guy says, so I want to get to that.
And worse and worse and harder, and then you die. That's true. And the vast majority of us, unless we are that top 20% of pretty perfect people, we're not getting out of this with any kind of support system. And just look at the fact that like most white men have no friends. Men in general, no friends, no social circle, no women. And quite frankly, most of us really don't want friends. We just want a social circle that might procure some sex and intimacy in our lives. Like, honestly, that would be a game changer for the vast majority of us. If just like, I don't know, a halfway decent looking woman actually wanted to throw us a bone, quite literally, every once in a while. Like, but no, we just have to keep slogging away in our little serfdom until the end of time, till the end of our road, with no hope for the future, no hope for the nation, no hope for anything but just dealing with the noise in our present state. Dealing with there's a plane flying above my house right now. Like just endless noise. There's nothing but noise.
They already extracted your wealth.
It never ends. You never get away from it. And don't talk to me about noise canceling headphones. Other said that's shit. Donation links are in the description below. I'm not going to buy one with the money you send me. Because I've tried the earplug thing. I've tried the noise canceling headphone thing. I've tried the noise mitigation stuff. You can hear it. It permeates your being.
I think Aaron Clary really has something going there with the going hiking in nature, or just go camping for a night or a weekend and just like enjoy of course, when I go camping, there's a bunch of Mexicans with their stereo.
You get that headache in your temples that never goes away. And I think part of that headache in your temples that never goes away is the existential dread and the reality that you are not making it. You are actually losing. You are actually fulfilling that prophecy of, oh, the millennials are going to be the first generation that have a less higher quality of life than the previous generations. Those
I'll let you cheat like everyone else is doing.
Boomers, Gen X, and then the millennials, and it's just precipitously downhill from there. We're all losers. Like, even the ones of us that own property that have made it, that have quote unquote succeeded, it's hell. Let me tell you right now, the whole buying the cheapest house you can afford thing, you better hope to God there isn't some fucking dog that lives next door that won't ever shut up, or that you're not on a major high traffic road, or you're
definitely better not cheat and do the steak and antifreeze and the speed bump, Raymond, because that would be against the rules.
You're not don't buy a house that's cheap, that's within a four-way intersection, or a stop sign within 500 feet of it at all, because all you're going to hear is that. I was walking this morning walk, supposed to be wake up, morning walk, supposed to be peaceful, supposed to protect your peace, Raymond. You have all this peace, Raymond. Your morning walk, supposed to be peaceful. This fucking asshole dude, younger guy, in this big old Dodge Ram, this spray painted black, because of course it was. There's no muffler on this truck. There was no muffler on this truck. And just peeling out at the stop sign and just racing down the road by me at 75 miles an hour with that just awful sound. Awful sound that like shakes everything and just shakes you to your core, just makes you hate existence at fucking first thing in the morning. And if I was inside, it would have shook the house. And then I have these massive 12-wheel dump trucks full of gravel go by me constantly, and they're loud as shit. It's constant. The noise never stops. It never stops. And that's just one little factor of the hell of living in a place that's cheap. And this was...
It's time to leave, bro. I think you hate them.
Wasn't even that cheap. $112,500. I overpaid for this place. Of course I overpaid for this place. Everybody's overpaying for their real estate. And I can't get out of it because I can't sell that place. And I keep looking. There is nowhere to go. There is nowhere to get away from this. And that's not even mentioning the 2% school district tax rate. And then I look at Indiana, and they got a 3% flat state income tax on everything. You can't get away from it. Everywhere has unreasonable taxation.
Raise it.
And I get these fucktards in my goddamn comments about, oh, well, you don't pay a 40% tax rate. You're the highest marginal tax rate is actually 37% on the federal level. You moron! You absolute moron. I'm talking about the aggregate tax rate, the actual, like the effective tax rate, state, local, school district, everything. Sales tax for all the shit you buy. Well, Raymond, why don't you move to a place where it doesn't have those taxes? Yeah, I moved to a place where it doesn't have those taxes.
This guy say next. There was one more point.
See, this is why I don't want to.
But even despite that, no matter what age, you're on your deathbed, if you don't even get to die in peace,
no, you're never going to be able to.
And I also think millennials, many of them watch their boomer parents die, or their boomer parents that may be dying, are going to get to process death differently too, with a feeling that there's nothing after, which is reasonable. But for some, that may be a form of catharsis, that there is nothing after this life. And it's good to want it to end. But for other people, that's not a form of catharsis. I've noticed many people are frightened of the proposition of total oblivion.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I'll be honest. I grew up in the church. The church cured me of ever wanting to go back to church. And you don't know what's good, the great beyond, whether there's some magnificent punishment or some magnificent reward. All I know is that the Christians in the here and now really only care about what's pretty and popular and cool and what gets them the most value out of you as possible versus what they can give back to you in person. Christian women especially. Prove me wrong. I'm waiting. Well, I'm waiting.
But at least if you've accomplished something in life, you get to lay on your deathbed and look back at what a great life you had.
I wonder if that's true. I wonder if like millennials actually got, like if I got a family and I got and some sense of accomplishment. Like people say, oh, Raymond, why aren't you feeling accomplished by your house and all these other things? It's like, I'm so bitter and jaded that there's no energy for a sense of accomplishment. I just feel like I'm running every single day from the external annoyances of my day-to-day life. Like what sense of accomplishment?
Dude, leave.
Like you always see those old people in the nursing homes, like those bitter old ladies that are like, oh, I can't wait to die. And you think, God, what happened to her? And it's like, no, maybe some of those bitter old people, it's like, maybe it's always been that way. And some of those bitter old people do have a point. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know at this point if you could even have, like, I'm trying to think about my death. It's going to take a lot of societal, like, Raymond, you are actually okay, to break me of this just existential pain. I'm sorry. Nobody's watching my videos anyway. I'm going to go full millennial on all of you, okay? I'm sick of the shaming shit. I'm sick of it.
A lot of millennials are not even going to get that. And
no,
Gen
we're
Z.
not. I think you should get a bigger coffee mug.
Oh, really? Oh, really? Well, guess what? My mom went to Canada, and all she got me was this plastic coffee mug. Look, it's big, but do you know why I keep it? Because right here says lifetime warranty. Yep. Guaranteed for life. Guarantee a V. From Bubba. Interesting. And look, it even has a, a sippy cup lid and fits in your car thing. So I am never paying for that cup again. And I am going to use it for hundreds of years because we're going to get life extension. And then I will just keep living and living and keep getting my cup fixed every time it falls apart. Did you know I bought, in the 90s, I bought a, what is it called? North Face jacket, a ski jacket. Lightweight, waterproof, breathable, windproof, has the hood, double zippers and buttons and everything. And you could go skiing in it and all that. Or you can go to Indonesia and ride a scooter through a rainstorm. The thing delaminated. The Gore-Tex came off of the cloth. I sent it in. They sent me a new one. I'm like, yay. So, like, I'm going on like 30 years of usage of that jacket. And, it cost me a lot, but lifetime is lifetime, right? But that's all I wanted to get to in this video. I think it's run on too long. Anyway, take it easy.